Now, on Philadelphia's #1 college radio station, WHIP, Rational Radio.
Rational Radio. It's 3 o'clock on Monday, November 2nd or 1st?
Second.
Really?
It's been a long
Second?
weekend. It's been a long weekend. But yeah, you're on Rational Radio with Ryan Goodwin, Izzy Uknes, and the legendary Ryan Frischella. It's a great day here on campus. We're recovering from the loss from Notre Dame, even though it was a great weekend, great game, but still broke our hearts a little bit. But how was everyone's weekend? How was everyone's Halloween weekend?
It was good.
It was really good.
Spent some time at the football game doing all that kind of stuff.
Saw you made it on the Jumbotron.
I did.
I saw you.
That's
I
right.
was watching. I was like, yeah, it's Ryan. I know that kid.
I was on there, I think, like 4 times or something like that. We were in the end zone and right behind, like where Wild Cherry was, like adjacent to that. That's where we were, and I guess that was a favorable location for the cameras.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. I had a good time. I think they played well.
Yeah, I think they did.
Heartbreaking to see that happen in the final. That interception happen in the final minutes.
He was open
but
too.
He was.
He was open.
But lots to talk about here today on Rational Radio. We are going to have 2 guests coming up later in the show to talk about, Election Day is tomorrow, so we are going to have 2 writers from the Inquirer on the show, and one of the guests from the Inquirer is coming on the show today to talk about Kathleen Kane and the troubles in her office, because why not talk about that again? And we will have another writer from the Inquirer coming on to talk about the race for Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, because this is the first time in a while since the British monarch ruled Pennsylvania that there are 3 justices up for 3 spots on the Supreme Court up for election. So that will be something very interesting to talk about. But first today we are going to start talking about a story that actually is from my hometown, my home
My
area.
hometown also.
Your hometown.
Hometown proud.
My home. Well, I'm not too proud about this. My hometown county. So basically, there was over Halloween. There was one report of needles being found in Twix bars, and the 2 reports in total. One was from Gloucester Township in New Jersey, but on this article in the Inquirer, it is said that report was now false.
Yeah, it was recently, just today, it was recognized as false and no longer valid. So the police stopped investigating that case specifically, but there are numerous other ones that are still.
Yeah. So the other one that is not that is still being investigated is the one that happened in Chester County. And so basically, there were some kids that were trick or treating in the Kennett Square area, and they went home and they found these needles in their Twix bars, and they were going through their candy. And one of the girls in this article on Philly.com, it says one of the girls actually pricked her finger on the Twix bar, which then caused them to look through all the candy. And I believe that that all these people were trick or treating on the west side of of Kennett Square. According to this article, Kennett Square is 1 square mile, and so they were on the west side of that. And so Chester County District Attorney Tom Hogan was quoted in this article as saying that that they have found needles and is a nightmare for all the parents and all the kids. And then he goes on to say that no reports of candy tampering were received by police elsewhere, which helps narrow the investigation to a fairly isolated area. So
That's just crazy.
just don't-
Like,
yeah, I
how
Yeah.
insane do you have to be to put like needles in children's like candy?
Right,
I
exactly.
Just don't
What
understand
What motivates
that.
someone to do that? Like, I really don't understand.
First of all, how do you get like?
That's what I'm saying. How
how
do you
get
like
it in
rewrap
the-
it?
Right.
Yeah.
I think I think since the needle's so sharp, they just stick it through the wrapper.
Okay.
And
Oh.
it leaves such a small hole that you're not going to notice. So I think they stick it through the wrapper into the candy bar, and then game over pretty much.
Interesting.
I mean, but you know, I don't understand. You know, there's the whole back in the day, people were putting razor blades in apples and things like that on Halloween.
Yeah.
You've seen in the actual Halloween 2, the movie, that some kid goes to the hospital with a razor blade in his mouth because someone put razor blades in his candy or an apple. And, you know, I just don't understand what motivates these people to do it. You know, little children who are just so eager to go up, get their candy and leave.
Yeah.
And you want to just destroy. You could possibly kill them. I mean, I don't get it.
To be honest, like I was still trick-or-treating freshman year of high school, and I probably would have fallen for that.
As was I. And I love Twix bars.
Yeah, big fan.
Twix is my favorite candy, so I would have probably eaten at least 4 needles, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it's really scary. I mean, because these are like little kids that, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, you see candy, and if they're just like tearing into
Yeah.
the candy and they're like,
And I mean, my big thing was when I was growing up, whenever I would come home with my dad and my mom from trick-or-treating, I always have to lay out my candy. My
Yeah.
dad would have to check it all.
Did you count it? Because I counted
Yeah.
my
And
candy
sorted
every
it. I
time.
had
did
to
you,
sort
weigh,
it.
did you guys
Sorted
weigh it? Like,
No,
I
I
put it
didn't
in the
weigh it.
bag, and
No,
I'd be
no, I
like,
didn't
I'd
weigh
see if it registered on the scale. You guys, I guess we're not cool enough
All
to
right,
do that.
were you guys plastic baggies or pillowcase trick-or-treaters?
You know what? It was like half and half for me.
Okay.
Couple years I used a plastic bag. Couple years I used a
All right,
pillowcase.
so I have this thing at my house. It's like it is a pumpkin, and it has like my name on it. So like,
Oh, did your mom get it for you?
I mean, I don't know who got it for me. She may have gotten it for me, but that I carried that around actually till I was fairly old.
That's awesome.
You
That
gotta
is
get a lot of
awesome.
use out of that. It has your name on it.
Oh, I got lots of use out of that. And I think that a couple later years, I did a pillowcase because I was like, I'm not carrying this thing around. Plus, it didn't even fit that much candy because it's designed for like a little kid, right?
Yeah.
And it was grabbing like one thing. And now I'm seeing these houses where it's like, take as many as you want. I'm grabbing like 8 things out of
You
the
just
bowl.
grab the whole bowl.
Right. I've actually seen that before where I went trick or treating. It said like, take as many as you want. Someone actually took the bowl. Like
I mean,
the actual
You're just asking
bowl.
for that to happen if you write a note like that.
But yeah.
Quick sidebar. Did you guys watch Blue's Clues as a kid?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you see that Steve died yesterday?
Yeah, he died in a car crash
Car-
in
I did not-
Pennsylvania.
I did not
actually.
see that. No.
I was crushed.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed. He died in a car accident
It's
yesterday.
insane. Yeah.
All right, well, that's
I mean,
besides
back on the
point.
Halloween
back
candy.
to the Halloween thing, but I just saw that and I had to bring it up. But
This, I don't know. It just hits incredibly close to home. Like I went to high school in Kennett Square. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
it goes to show how sick some people are out there in the world, because you know that little kids are going to be taking this, and you're intentionally harming them.
so the one thing I like about this article is they quoted Tom Hogan as saying that once we find out who did this, I'm sure the parents will have a suggestion for how we should deal with that person.
Oh, definitely.
And you know, we heard him when he was on the show talking about the death penalty and how you know how passionate he was and how much he was able to articulate his position, and I'm sure that, you know, the parents in Chester County will have you know,
Oh yeah,
have their suggestion. on
I
how
can
they
only
would like to
imagine
be dealt
what
with.
my mother would want to happen. I mean, I could see what my father would want, but my mother alone, I mean, I couldn't imagine what she would want to have happen to these people. She would honestly probably request death row for these people. And I mean, what do you think that what do you think the punishment should be for a crime like this?
They need to bite into a couple needles. I'm thinking they should bite into some
okay. Okay, is he throwing it right back at him?
Oh wow, that's interesting. We have I didn't think you were that type of person. No, what should happen to them? I don't know.
it's hard to
Something.
Do you, I mean, what do you think should they?
I mean, like, do they need to go to jail for 5 years?
I think so. Yeah, I do.
They're intentionally trying to harm little kids. It's just,
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I mean, the fact that 100%. I mean, this is just as I put this up there with. I mean, this is attempted murder almost. I would say. I mean, you're intentionally putting a sharp object into an edible that a small children's going to consume without thinking that anything's going to be in it, and I think that's a sick person. We talked about. When District Attorney Hogan did come on, and he talked about how there are some people that you just can't cure, and that they're beyond being able to be rehabilitated and put back into a functioning member of society. This person is one of those people, because the fact that you would do that to a small child, there's no coming back from that. You're a sick person, and you don't deserve to be on the streets, or you're clearly not a functioning member of society. So I don't know why you deserve to be in a home, supporting yourself. You should be behind bars.
And so, I actually, in my senior year of high school, did an internship with Mr. Hogan in his office, and so I got to see a lot of how these crimes were dealt with, and like how the law was applied to certain activities. So one of the first things that comes to my mind is, when they find this person is, well, what are you going to charge them with? And so one of the first things that comes to my mind is recklessly endangering another person. And in Pennsylvania, that's a misdemeanor, the second degree. And it's basically occurs when someone places or may place another person in danger of death or serious bodily injury.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's this.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys think this is an older person, or like a middle-aged person, or like a young teenager like us? Like that's supposed to be a prank and they don't see the outcome. They don't see the possible outcomes.
I think it's hard to say. It's definitely someone who's bored with their own life, that they just need to go ahead and harm other people. I don't know. It's hard to say how old this person is.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Like, I mean, I don't know. It probably wouldn't surprise me if it was like a prank. Like people are like, oh, like this will be funny.
But it's not, though.
No. I don't know how, how old it would be, how old this person could be.
Because, you have all these kids go around on Halloween, there's mischief night and all this stuff the night before Halloween, and I mean, some of the things, the lengths that people go to pull off a prank, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a fine line in pranks and crimes, and a lot of people don't know where that line is anymore, and it's got to be reassured into the minds of people. Like, they have to know.
It seems fairly obvious. Just don't put a needle in candy.
How would you feel if someone put a needle in your pizza that you got on a Friday night? Like, I mean, you wouldn't like it. So why? I just don't know. I don't know what motivates people anymore in this country to do things like that.
Yeah. And so Mr. Hogan's cautioning parents to fully inspect all Halloween candy before anyone eats any more of it, just because he wants to prevent anything else from happening. But so the mayor of Kennett Square was saying that there are a lot of kids walking in this area, and that the neighborhood has lots of compact homes with leaf-covered front yards and carved pumpkins. And so it's not like they're walking through an area that's not like
it sounds like it's a nice suburban area with very family friendly, and. That's what leads me to think that this was a prank.
Yeah.
That, it's this type of family environment, and that some punk kids with his friends were like, oh, this is going to be so funny, we should do this.
Yeah.
And then, boom, you could have killed somebody.
And so this article says that that Kennett Square Police and Chester County detectives are interviewing the families, and they're attempting to get DNA and fingerprints off of the needles. Which, when I was actually in their office, like, I saw all this stuff that they have to do these investigations, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they're able to pull something. As small as a needle is, which is insane.
Forensics and crime investigation units like that nowadays, it's ridiculous what we've been able to accomplish in the 21st century, and even in the later half of the 20th century, what we were able to do and figure out for crime investigation, it's ridiculous. So I'm not surprised at all that they're going to be able to find somebody.
No, and this says that, they're sewing needles. Yeah. So it's not like, they were like something like big.
It's not a knife or anything like,
which
or like
actually,
a blade.
Well, it's in a fun-sized candy bar. It's small.
Right, yeah. Which actually, I mean, in some way, does that make you feel a little bit better that it wasn't a needle from like a syringe? that was it, because that's the first thing I thought of, right? I saw a needle on Halloween candy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's like someone grabbed like some dirty needles or something and put them in there.
So I guess in that sense, it eases parents' stomachs a little bit that they didn't have maybe a heroin needle or something like that. Yeah. That God knows where it could have been. Yeah. Could be tainted with hepatitis or anything like that.
Right. I mean, this is still bad. I mean, because this is just sharp, but now you don't have to worry about like a disease,
long-term effects now.
Right. So something very scary that happened, this weekend. So hopefully they find out who did it and get to the bottom of what actually happened, and hopefully it wasn't a prank, because that's not funny.
Yeah, definitely not.
So I don't know why you think that would be okay, but
some people
there are some people out there that obviously, as we have seen here, that just went ahead and did that, because then it takes the fun out of it for everybody else, because then you walk around always wondering,
then Halloween's a danger,
right?
You're constantly looking over your back,
and then it's like, oh, is there going to be a needle in this candy? And it's like, all right, now we have to inspect every single piece of candy before you can eat it. And what kid who's young, they just want to rip into the candy. They just want to rip into it. They want to get that sugar high, and they want to get all jumpy and have a good time, but you can't do that when you're looking for needles and blades. Right, exactly. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here, but be sure to stay tuned to Rational Radio here on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station. We have a lot more to talk about today, so stay tuned. If you ever want to call in, the number is 215-204-9447. We will be right back.
From the WHIP News Team, I'm Dalton Balthaser, and it's time for your news right now. Record television ratings were set for the Temple Notre Dame primetime football game. The game was ABC's highest-rated regular season contest ever in the Philadelphia market. The matchup earned an 18.1 overnight rating nationally, which represents approximately 528,000 households. The contest also collected a 3.9 overnight rating, which results in over 4 million households. The game was the highest rated across all of the networks in Week 9. Donald Trump continues his attacks against his political rivals. Trump now took aim to criticize the Democratic National Convention's chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He said in an interview that she is a terrible person, and he also called her crazy and highly neurotic. Wasserman Schultz then responded in a statement to CNN by accusing Trump of misogynistic attacks. More than 40 total Chipotle restaurants were closed in parts of Oregon and Washington State on Saturday after an E. coli outbreak that was linked to those restaurants. The Washington State Department of Health said that 19 E. coli cases in Washington and 3 in Oregon have been connected to the restaurant. In total, 8 of those that got sick were hospitalized. No one has died as a result of this outbreak. For breaking news, follow us on Twitter at WHIP Radio and check out WHIPRadio2U.com. We'll see you in an hour with your news update.
I'm so glad we left that stupid party.
No joke.
Hey, baby, are you an overdue library book? Because you got fine written all over you.
Oh, barf.
What about that girl with the hoop earrings?
Ridiculous. When she was dancing...
Megan, look out! Look out! Oh my God, Becky. Becky, are you okay?
My arm. I think it's broken.
Can you bend it?
It's already bent. In the wrong direction.
I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Really? Just buzzed?
Yeah, I swear.
Well, in that case, my arm is fine. Ah, that's better.
You're really okay? You're serious, Becky?
No, genius. I'm not serious. Ow! My arm, it hurts.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. Every child deserves to have access to books because children who grow up with books invariably do better in life than children who do not. How do I choose a book? Is it the cover? Yeah, I guess, sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual, so it's a combination of those two. The first book I remember was Captains Courageous. When I finished that book, I had become so involved with these characters. So here's the thing. If a book's really, really impressing me and the writing is really, really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is. Because the endings of books, if it's really, really well done, that ending, that last thought should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back, everybody, to Rational Radio here on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station. We're here talking all the big stories today in Philadelphia and beyond. Now moving on to something that will be of importance tomorrow. So tomorrow's Election Day. And here in Pennsylvania, there is a big race coming up tomorrow, and that is the race for Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So there are 3 seats that are up for election that candidates are vying for, and in this article on Philly.com, written by Chris Palmer, who will join us in just a moment. It says that basically this is the first time that this has happened, that this setup of 3 justices being ready to be up for re-election, first time since a British monarch ruled the state of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Making history.
And so then someone in the article, Kyle Kopko, who's a political science professor at Elizabethtown College, said that it's probably the most significant race in recent memory. So now to discuss this race further is Chris Palmer. And Chris, thanks for joining us here on Rational Radio.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, Chris, talk a little bit about what you've seen as being the biggest kind of implication of this race, 3 seats up for re-election here.
Yeah, so the state Supreme Court only has 7 seats. And so when you're electing 3 people, you're essentially electing half of the Supreme Court justices. They have 10-year terms, so you're electing people for a long time. And there are 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats currently on the bench. So whoever gets elected this time is going to determine the balance of power, whether it's Republicans or Democrats on the bench. There are topics that are likely to come before the court in future years, including whether a moratorium on the death penalty is legal, whether Kathleen Kane should remain in office, fracking, whether natural gas drilling is legal in the state of Pennsylvania, and legislative redistricting, which determines where our congressional representatives and our legislative representatives in Pennsylvania, where their districts lie, which has a long way of going to determine how gridlocked politics can be. So these justices are going to have a lot on their plate to determine it's going to affect a lot of Pennsylvanians. And again, electing 3 people out of the 7 seats for the first time since 1703, I mean, this just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, no, definitely. Something that we have not seen.
Yeah, haven't seen in many generations.
Yeah, but in talking to people, Chris, is there a sense of wanting to change up the balance of power right now? Because I know it is a Republican majority. Do people want to see more Democrats come onto the bench, or are they happy with the Republicans that are in the race?
You know, I think if you talk to the justices, what they say is that their party affiliation actually has nothing to do with how they rule. It's a weird system in Pennsylvania and in other states, too, where we elect justices based on their political party, but then we ask them to sit on the bench and put that party affiliation to the side and not rule in a partisan manner. I think one thing you can definitely see is that there are judicial philosophies that are influenced by their political party. You can see some justices, Republicans, for example, may have a more strict reading of the Constitution, whereas Democrats may be more willing to look at it as a living document and interpret it as it currently stands. But, you know, we see in judicial politics all the time that party affiliation doesn't necessarily determine how someone's going to vote. Yeah. Chief Justice John Roberts on the U.S. Supreme Court, for example, is a Republican, who was, by most accounts, the vote that determined that Obamacare was largely legal. So it's a weird system we have where we elect justices based on their political party, but then most will tell you that they're not affected by that when they sit on the bench.
We're on the phone with Chris Palmer talking about the new PA Supreme Court race that will be Election Day tomorrow. And just, Chris, I have another question. Since this hasn't happened where 3 seats are up for availability in over 300 years, do you see any negative side effect to this, that we have 3 new people jumping into the loop right away, not having much experience in the Supreme Court of PA? So do you see any downside to this at all?
Obviously, there's always unknowns when you have candidates that are going to run, and I think one of the things that election watchers are worried about is that the turnout tomorrow is expected to be pretty low. In an off-year election, you generally get about 25% of the voters who come out and pick. That isn't always the broadest representation of the actual electorate. So certainly there's consequences. I think that's why it's important for everyone to get out and vote. I would encourage all of your listeners to
definitely
do some last-minute homework if they need to, and get out to the polls tomorrow and make their voices be heard. I think, again, there's always potential consequences, but having 3 justices, it's historic. I think it's hard to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, so I know here in Philadelphia, at least, I've seen lots of ads being run for Kevin Dougherty. Have you, from what you've done, from your reporting, does he seem, is there a favorability behind him to push him onto the Supreme Court?
So I haven't seen any independent polls that suggest who's in the lead or not. Obviously, Dougherty has really strong ties in Philadelphia because his brother is John Dougherty, Johnny Duck. He's the leader of one of the most powerful labor unions in the city that has a lot of political connections within Philadelphia city politics, within state politics, even on congressional level. Dougherty, last week, Kevin Dougherty, had all 12 Democrats on Philadelphia City Council come out and back him. He held his reception in the Philadelphia mayor's office, although I don't believe Mayor Nutter or Jim Kenney, the Democratic frontrunner for mayor, were there. But it just shows that Kevin Dougherty and the Dougherty family has a lot of institutional backing in Philadelphia. That's probably why you see his name around a lot in the city, just because of those familial ties that are go very deep in city politics.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, probably the most ads I've seen so far are for him. And, I mean, I think it's just really interesting to look at this and see, there could be, with 3 new justices that come on, there could be a change in that political ideology, especially with everything that's been going on with Kathleen Kane at the moment. Seems like lots of people are eager to do something about that issue. But I mean, also, there's lots of other issues that are important here to the people of Pennsylvania. And I don't know, Chris, if people really see this race as something like, oh, whatever, Supreme Court, it doesn't affect me. Why should I go out and vote?
Right. I think a lot of the questions that end up in front of the Supreme Court are the big questions that you might not think about, again, with issues like whether the death penalty is. The moratorium on the death penalty is going to be able to stand, whether natural gas drilling is going to be able to continue in the state, and again, how our political map is drawn up in Pennsylvania. You might not think as a voter that you have a lot of direct control over those types of issues, but they affect a lot of people. And, the court, frankly, hears some of the biggest societal questions that we have. The cases that get in front of the Supreme Court are by definition the ones that no one else can decide. And so it's important to have people who the voters want and believe are qualified to sit in those seats and decide those big and important, meaty questions.
Yeah, and I think, just looking at the people who are running for Supreme Court, lots of them have the experience as judge. It's not like a ton of, outsiders to this. A lot of them have been either common pleas judges or another judge, a Superior Court or Commonwealth Court judges, which I think is a benefit.
Yeah, they're all judges. So there's no question there that they have sat on a bench before, and there's no doubt you're not electing someone who's gone to an online law school for a few years and now is launching a campaign. these people all have judicial experience, and one of the things they're all touting this election cycle in particular is their integrity and their respect for the law, because the Supreme Court over the past few years, the state Supreme Court has been ensnared in a whole list of scandals. There have been two justices who have been implicated in a pornographic email scandal. There was another who was kicked off the bench for corruption allegations, and that's all within the past 3 years. So all of these justices, beyond kind of touting their judicial qualifications and their years on the bench, are seeking to kind of place an emphasis back on integrity so that they can separate themselves from the scandals that have kind of ensnared the court over the past few years.
Yeah, so we shall see how it turns out tomorrow. But, Chris, thanks so much for joining us here on Rational Radio.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye-bye. So we shall see. I mean, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
And I mean, Chris made a good point. It's our civic duty to go out and vote. So make sure, all you listeners out there, make sure you go out. And like Ryan said, you might not think that the Supreme Court race is not something that you should definitely be, concerned about, but it is. This plays a huge role in our state here. So get out and vote, make your presence be known, and do the American thing and vote. I'll leave it at that.
Well, yeah, because, I think lots of people look at the Supreme Court and say, this doesn't affect, I'm a law-abiding citizen. What does it matter what they decide? No. But, hey.
It could directly impact
you. It could, yeah.
There's $10 million being pumped into the race, so you might as well go and vote. They're putting a lot of money into it.
Yes, exactly.
And, there's, like he said, there are things that the Supreme Court decides that nobody else can decide.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, I think that just speaks to kind of like the prestige of it. It's not, not every case reaches the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm. They're big cases,
right? The death penalty, like the future of the death penalty.
And if that's something you feel strongly about, then you need to go out and vote.
Right. Exactly.
And not only, you'd be making history. You're voting for something that, there's a new thing going on, almost hasn't happened in 300 years. So if you want to be a part of history, go out and vote tomorrow.
Yeah. But I think too often in today's society, I think that people are just like, it doesn't matter, whatever. But like he said, it'll be. I'm really interested to see if Kevin Dougherty gets elected to Supreme Court, just because of all the power that his brother has here in Philadelphia, and see if that can push him to election on the bench. But it is. Looking through the judges on here, it's Superior Court judge, Commonwealth Court judge, Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas judge, Adams County Common Pleas judge, and it's good to see. It's not just they've been on the bench for 2 years. They're all
they all have experience,
right?
They know
exactly. Their ages range from the low 50s to the late 60s. And it's not their first day doing this.
It's not their first time around the block, that's for sure.
No, which is good.
Yeah, which is definitely good. They're going to have experience behind them. They're going to be able to handle tough situations. They've been on the bench before. They know how to make those tough calls. So,
and I think people honestly need to look at the issues and vote on this, because in the coming future there will be issues that will be polarizing here in Pennsylvania, and if people then don't vote and then complain, you can't not vote and then complain about the issue.
You have to have some part of it to make your complaint valid.
Right, exactly.
And that's part of that's what I see as part of the whole big problem with America right now. A lot of people just say, politics has nothing to do with me, but then they want to complain about everything.
Yeah.
Then no, make a contribution and then tell me your opinion, and then I'll see it as valid.
Yeah.
Politics has everything to do with you if you live in this country.
Exactly. But so many people out there, they don't even know who's running for president right now, and that's part of the reason. Those are the people that go out and just vote to vote, and they don't know what's going on, and that's why we get bad officials in office.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how this race turns out tomorrow.
It will be to see how it pans out.
So we probably on Wednesday we'll be talking about it.
Yes, we will.
All the people who got elected and what we should expect.
So be here Wednesday from 3 to 4 on WHIP.
That's right. And in the meantime, keep it tuned here to Rational Radio. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be back in just a moment here on Rational Radio on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station.
Past the top of the hour, and here's your WHIP Sports Update.
I'm Tom Hanslin, and this report is brought to you by Peerless Boilers. It is Peerless who builds America's best boilers. Well in front of a sold-out crowd at the Link on Saturday night, the Temple Football Owls were 2 minutes away from a shocking upset of Notre Dame, but the Irish rallied late and silenced the crowd with a late touchdown pass as they won 24-20, handing Temple their first loss on the year. They dropped to 23 in the AP poll and visit SMU this Friday. In Game 5 of the Fall Classic, the Mets were 3 outs away from a victory, but the Royals also rallied, sending the game into extras, where they then scored 5 more runs in the 12th and sealed the deal.
The 1-2 again. Inside corner. The Royals, 2015 World Champions.
Joe Buck on Fox Sports as Kansas City ended their 30-year drought by a final score of 7-2. The series MVP was catcher Salvador Perez. Perez was also the final out in the 2014 series against San Francisco. On the gridiron, the Saints beat the Giants on a game-winning field goal, 52-49, 13 touchdowns combined between Eli Manning and Drew Brees. That sets a single-game record. The Cowboys fell to Seattle 13-12. Baltimore beat the Chargers 29-26. The Jets were stomped by Oakland 34-20. Denver improved to 7-0 with a 29-10 win over the Packers. Colts-Panthers tonight in Monday Night Football at 8, while the Flyers visit Vancouver and the Sixers host Cleveland. It's 60 degrees and overcast in Center City, and that's what's happening with reports half past the hour. This is Tom Hanslin, WHIP Sports, your home for the main event weekdays 11 to noon, and the Temple Sports Hour from noon to 1.
There's hundreds of fun and simple things you and your family can do to live a healthier lifestyle. Here's 20 of them. Eat less, eat slower, eat smarter, eat your fruits and veggies. Stop eating before you're full. Up your fiber, lower your calories, get off the bus early, do some gardening, do jumping jacks, take the stairs, take one, not two, take on a new sport, take a long walk home, walk instead of drive, bend, stretch, reach for the stars, climb the monkey bars, skip the fudge bars. Search We Can online to find more ways you and your family can get healthy together. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
Remember when your neighbor found us naked in the car, and the time some outdoor action got us kicked out of the park? Getting frisky in the dark, I gave your eye a poke. I think the dog is also in the bed. Do I smell smoke? You and me. We never give up, you and me. We never, ever, ever give up. Getting hot and heavy with the whipped cream that we bought, undressing in the kitchen and then getting caught. So many things can go wrong, but we still can get it right. You and me, we're not gonna give up tonight.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Visit bedsider.org to compare all the choices and put the bogus myths to bed at bedsider.org.
Boy, we got options tonight.
Brought to you by Bedsider and the Ad Council. Bedsider.org.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think you would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Wendy Rollins, and you're listening to WHIP.
Welcome back, iHeartRadio listeners, to Rational Radio. We're about to dive into our next topic of, well, guess who? Kathleen Kane again is in the news. So we're going to, Ryan, you want to introduce our next guest here who's going to tell us all the ins and outs of Kathleen Kane?
Oh, yeah. So isn't it another show here where we're discussing Kathleen Kane? And honestly, this is something that, I mean, has gone on for so long here in Pennsylvania. And that, honestly, it doesn't seem like it's going to be ending anytime soon.
No, definitely not. She's going down with the ship, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we are now joined on the air by Angela Columbus, a reporter for The Inquirer, who's here to talk to us a little bit about Kathleen Kane. Angela, thanks for joining us here on Rational Radio.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to us a little bit about the latest developments in the Attorney General's office. Now a subcommittee formed in the Pennsylvania Senate to actually explore the option of removing her from her job.
That's right. There's a section of the Constitution that essentially says in order to be the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, you have to be a member of the bar. And as you all know, the Supreme Court temporarily suspended Kathleen Kane's law license, which effectively raises the question of what can she do any longer as the Attorney General if she can't act as a lawyer. I mean, this isn't a situation where you have somebody's law license being taken away and their job is to do, say, largely administrative stuff, although she has made the argument that her job is largely administrative. She is top law enforcement officer in the state. By virtue of her position, she makes lots of legal decisions. And the question now is, what can or can she not do? So that is what this Senate subcommittee is looking at. It has 30 days to report back to the Senate with its findings. And essentially what they're looking at is, okay, what can she do? What can't she do? And is she so limited now with the suspended law license that she can't do her job? And then once they complete that review, the decision is going to be made at that point whether they need to go forward with an actual hearing on whether Kathleen Kane can remain in office or not, or whether they're going to remove her from office or not.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But in the meantime, it sounds like, just from reading articles in the Inquirer, that there is lots of turmoil in the office.
There's lots of disagreement in the office. I think what's happening is you're seeing a lot of her top deputies stepping up now and saying, we disagree with your position that you can do. What she said is, I can continue to do 98% of what I've always done, that my job is largely administrative and ministerial, is how she put it, and that I can still do that on a day-to-day basis. And her top lawyers are saying, no, we disagree with you. We don't think you can do a lot of this, perform a lot of the functions of your job. And if you do, you might actually hurt the office and hurt some of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that I've seen people talking about. But one thing that I think is so interesting in reading all of this is that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, she keeps going forward and insisting in investigating all of this stuff, whether it's, justices with pornographic emails or anything else. And I feel like she has bigger issues to worry about than this.
Here's why she's putting out a lot of these emails involving pornography. Part of her criminal defense has been, now whether it's accepted in court or not remains to be seen, but part of her the defense in her criminal case has been that she was kind of set up. This whole criminal investigation was set up by people who were so deathly scared that she was going to expose their pornographic email ring. And these people, included judges and prosecutors and, as we now know, defense lawyers. I mean, it was fairly widespread. And so she has insisted that this is really relevant stuff and that it's not, it's not just important for the public to know, but that it's an important part of her criminal case. Now, if you talk to lawyers, criminal defense lawyers outside of hers, I mean, a lot of them will tell you that will likely not fly as a defense once a criminal case, does actually come to fruition.
And I mean, just hearing some of the things that other people are saying, is this like from what you've seen so far? Is this what they've called retaliation against people who have gone against her?
A lot of people have questioned the timing of her release of these emails. They say that she only releases emails when she's in trouble, and B, against people who have done something to make her angry or somehow hurt her. There has been a lot of inconsistency in her approach to releasing the emails. The first time we knew about these emails was last year, right around this time, like October, November, and at the time she only named 8 people who were involved in the pornographic email exchange. Well, now we know that there were dozens and dozens of people, who were participated in these exchanges, and she has refused to release all of the pornographic emails or all of the emails with inappropriate content. And in fact, my paper has taken her to court to get those emails released publicly, and her office has fought the public release of it, even as she's saying that she wants all of this information to be made available to the public.
Right, yeah, so that's what I don't get. I mean, she's releasing some of this, but then she says, I won't release other stuff.
It's not working. I don't get it either.
And some of the other things that I just think are interesting. I mean, what do you think is next for her?
Well, I think the key thing for her, at least in the immediate near future, is what the Senate committee does, because if they find that she can't really continue to function in any real way as the Attorney General, that could lead to them making the decision to move forward with a formal, removal procedure and a hearing. And that could just be a circus that you will, see playing out in early December if that goes there, if they go there. If they don't, what we know is both her lawyers and Montgomery County prosecutors who have charged her criminally have said that they believe that her criminal trial could come as early as, maybe January or February of next year.
Wow. I mean, in talking to people, if you were able to get a sense of this, is her, I mean, I assume her approval rating is like in the tank.
Yeah, it's got to be so low at this point. It wasn't even good to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, there was a thing I saw on, I believe it was the Morning Call from Allentown, and it said in February of last year that her approval rating was 26%.
Yeah, her approval ratings have really fallen in the last 18 months, since there's been this real public kind of feuding going on between her and former prosecutors in her office. And what she has said is, which is really sort of interesting, she's, on the one hand, she says, I'm staying in office, I'm fighting these criminal charges, and I'm going to remain the Attorney General. And not only that, I'm going to run for re-election in 2016 because, her term is up in the beginning of 2017. She'd have to run next year. But for the first time, she also signaled about a month ago that she doesn't know now whether she can even run because she has a suspended license and because the state constitution requires you to be a member of the bar. So, she has, her future is really, really uncertain. And, I don't know that her message or necessarily the other side's message is penetrating with the public all that much.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's so interesting that even with all of this going on, she still came out and said, I think I'm going to run for re-election. I think this is something good that I should do.
It's a bold move by her. She said that she wants to be a pillar of strength to her kids and things like that for this whole, and I wanted to know, like, how much are candidates for next year going to come and use this as a tactic of their own to install integrity? You think it's going to be a major factor in their campaign?
I think you're going to hear some of that, quite a bit of that. I mean, first off, going back to what you said, I think she's going to have a really tough time raising money if she decides to formally run. And, the first time she ran, a lot of her money came from her, at the time, husband. It was all family money. And she doesn't have that anymore. So, she would really have to go out and make a big fundraising effort, which, given the circumstances, is going to be difficult. And then what you just said is a very important factor. I mean, she might face a Democrat who might primary her. And if that happens, you'll definitely see that person raising issues of integrity and not using the office for personal purposes and that sort of thing. And, talking about the morale being destroyed in the office. But she'll also, if she survives a primary, she'll also have to, deal with that with Republicans who are sort of starting to line up to run against her.
And I think one of the most interesting things that was pointed out is that initially when she was running back in 2012, that people said she just doesn't have the experience. I mean, she was an assistant district attorney in Lackawanna County, and they all said, I just think she's overshooting for going for attorney general.
Right.
And now maybe they're saying, hey, look, I was right.
Maybe it's true. You know, maybe she bit off more than she could chew.
That has definitely been a criticism we've heard time and time again. She could probably counter some of that saying, look, I've had 4 years in office now. I know how to run this office. I understand it's the ins and outs of the job. But there's been so much other noise that I think that'll be a really hard message for her to sell and have it impact with the public.
Yeah, and even, just kind of one last thing to wrap this up. If she is acquitted in Montgomery County and she is not reelected, I mean, I don't know what even as a future for her future going forward, I don't know if there would be anywhere that would take her back, as a private law firm, or even if she went back to working for the government as a district attorney. I mean, I feel like, getting reelected as a district attorney, just now given her record as attorney general, would be near impossible.
Right, and she also has to deal with the law license.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's something she's going to have to work out.
Yeah, and so I just think the whole future surrounding this is so just murky. But for the time being, I think people are just tired of hearing.
Yeah, they're tired of hearing it. Kathleen Kane. I mean, here on the show, we've had so many shows primarily focused around this exact issue, and I think people are just tired of it.
I feel like it's a drama playing out in Harrisburg right now.
Exactly.
That is true.
Yeah. All right. Well, Angela, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. So I just think, so interesting.
It is. I mean, just this whole Kathleen Kane scandal, all of that's going on right now. We've talked about it so much. It's almost like the whole Benghazi scandal with Hillary. Everyone was just tired of hearing it, and we want to move on. We want a new person in office to take control and set things right, and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kane needs to, well, she's not going to resign because she's just
She
too
said
stubborn.
she wants to run for re-election.
She's
Come on.
She's digging her own grave there.
Yeah.
She's going to get just destroyed at debates and all that. She's just going to get destroyed by her competition. And you hinted at this. Any step that she takes after this is just going to be a step down. What is she going to go from attorney general to assistant DA?
Right.
It's just not going to make any sense.
Yeah, I know. I think everything surrounding it is so uncertain. And just, so many questions.
So many question marks everywhere.
And like Angela said, people question the timing of the release of these emails. It's not, it would be one thing if she released, 10 every single day for, 4 weeks or whatever. But she, you go maybe 2 months without release, and then you get a huge release at one point. And everybody's like, why? I mean, if you're just doing it to release them, why don't you just do it gradually or just all at once?
All at once. Why not just get it all out in the air
or
out in the open?
Yeah.
So I don't know. She should have resigned long ago, and now she's she shot herself in the foot, and I think her career is in the toilet because of it.
Yeah, so certainly a very interesting issue. We thank everybody, all our guests today, Chris and Angela, for calling in.
Yes, hopefully they'll be back with us at some point this year, into this semester.
And just really big issues that we were talking about today. So that'll just about do it for us here on Rational Radio today. We will be back tomorrow, Election Day. From
Go out
3
and make
to
a
4.
difference.
That's right. So be sure to tune in right here on WHIP Radio. But for now, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening, as always. Yes, and you are listening to WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station.